And James, my advice is, mate, bite off more than you can chew and chew like hell, right? Just go hard. Absolutely. Because,
Yeah.
you learn more and more about yourself. You've learned these lessons. You know the mistakes not to make. You know the preparations to. You'll never get 100% right, but you know the preparations to plan and move forward. So I'll actually take it this way.
I went through a really tough breakup last year and it shattered my confidence. I want to move forward and find strength, but I don't know how to stop feeling stuck. How can I turn this pain into a source of power, as you say, and come back into self-love and even look at meeting someone else? So obviously, I'm sure everyone's been through this.
Oh, we have all been through this,
yeah.
And that self-doubt that sneaks into your life, like after a relationship,
Yeah. Yes.
Definitely. There's so much to this. Like, I used to think that relationships had to last and last and last and last, right? I've been, again, very lucky to surround myself with people who have taught me very good lessons in life. And now I look at relationships and think, like, if it's ended, okay, or if it needs to end, then it's, it's run its course. It's had its time.
Yeah.
It doesn't need, it's not, we don't live in a world anymore. It's very different where you marry someone, you stay with them till the day you die. Now, that's very nice. And if you can do that and it works for you, fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, if it doesn't, be with the person, love that person, give all of yourself to that person, and gain every, every skill, every lesson that you can from that relationship. And when it's past, move on, and, I used to jokingly just say, when a relationship ends, this was my advice. Next! Right? It's not anymore.
But easier said than done, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And
Because I'm sure everybody has had their heart broken
Oh,
before.
man, and it hurts.
Yes,
it hurts.
yes.
It really does.
And, you do see people who do obsess. And, look, it's fair enough.
My name is Terri Messenger, and I am Hey, and welcome to Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. And, this is the place and the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass absolutely free.
And we are live. It is time for, of course, the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. An absolute highlight of my week. The lovely Terri, of course, here to bring her level of genius and, to invigorate the genius in all of us. Does that sound like I've hit the mark there?
I would like to say yes on that, Aaron, and I'm very honoured, I have to say.
You sound circumspect, I'm not going to lie.
The highlight of the week, it's like, wow. I hope nobody else is watching that.
No, I carefully said one of the highlights. I'm not silly. Come on.
One of the highlights.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Well, absolutely. Very, very lucky to have you here. And, you always bring, every single week, you bring in something that, honestly, it's something that I embed in my own life. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
You must be like the king of the world by now.
I just call
with
it
all these other people
the local
as well.
sponge, really. I'm just, I'm taking it all in. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was literally, we were talking just before we went on air, and we were talking about Soul Birth, a wonderful show that we do here with Faye Suzanne, and we were talking about some of the manifesting stuff that, well, basically you and I have been talking about for quite some time. And this is the sort of things that I used to actually I thought it was absolute gobbledock, okay? I didn't believe in it. I wasn't into it.
Did you make that word up?
I just did. No. I'm thinking of a little Ewoky kind of thing. It doesn't matter anyway. But where I'm going on this is it was something that I was actually against, okay? And I just thought it was rubbish. And now I see myself implementing it in my everyday life.
That's
and I
amazing.
think it's a good thing. Yeah.
I believe it's an amazing thing, Aaron, because there's going to be a lot of people that are a bit sceptical that
I think
come
it's
on
good to
to
be
the
sceptical,
show.
don't you?
I absolutely believe that it shouldn't be any other way. It's, the skeptical, curious personality and mind is the safest mind, I believe.
Safest mind. That's
Well,
a good
it's
call.
safe. I mean, not to say that it's good to play safe, but I feel that if you are curious and skeptical, then it takes more evidence to believe it.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm not that. It's not that I just want to boom blanket not believe things. I just want to see the evidence, right,
Yep.
before I implement it in my life. So
Yes.
that's how I sort of line it.
Yep.
Great opportunity. I've noticed a couple of messages are coming up on the feeds that we can't see at the moment, but I can actually see that we've got the messages. So thank you for that. We'll jump on and have a look at those later on. In the meantime, though, if you're watching or listening or whatever you happen to be doing, if you feel like it, jump on there and type in a question, and we'd be absolutely honoured to answer if we can.
Yeah,
if we've got the skill
bring
set.
your questions.
Yeah.
And Aaron will bring it up on the screen and we will read it out and we will give you live answers,
Yeah.
real-time answers.
Love the interaction.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, okay, I've done enough yapping this morning or this afternoon or wherever we happen to be in the day. I've lost track.
It doesn't matter though, because
doesn't.
the US, Europe, everywhere,
Yeah.
New Zealand, London, Paris,
That's
it's a
right.
different time. So
It is, right now.
You're right. Somewhere along the line
Somewhere.
you are right.
As long as I'm right somewhere. I'm like a broken clock. I'm right twice a day, right? That's pretty much where I am. Okay.
That's amazing.
So what's today's show about?
Well, it's about really bouncing back from crisis, and I
Okay.
feel it's a very relevant topic. And we're going to touch on the existential crisis, which I had to practice saying that word
word.
for a while. It is a very big word. And yet, it was almost something I did look at in theology, but I got a kind of a negative connotation about it when I was looking at it in theology, because it was almost presented as self-absorbed. And
Really?
yeah, sort
Okay.
of, because it is about the self. It is about, where you're questioning, but, questioning your life. And this is what we're going to be talking about, because questioning those crisis moments in your life is actually a really powerful thing to do.
You find out what you're made of through a crisis.
You do.
Okay, not through good
Yes,
times. We
yes.
love good times. We want more good times.
Yes.
But you don't actually know who you are and how you'll react and then all those things.
Yes.
To put
So
under that stress.
the intense questioning that we, really invoke on ourselves
Yep.
during a crisis. What does this mean to us? What is this? What is happening in my life right now? Some people go a really negative way though, and I really want to address that. And that is, I don't know whether I can do this. How can I go on? These kind of questions. But it's those kinds of questions that when you turn them around and you can start looking at it from the perspective that, what if this was to do with the zone of genius, the genius zone? Okay,
Yeah,
so,
okay. All right.
the genius zone, because, attention goes where energy flows. So if we are, we've spoken about this before, if we're dealing with something, a crisis, for example, are we going to look at all the great things that are going on around us in our life? We're usually really focused in on that.
Of course we are.
So, the more we focus in on it, we've got to be careful not to attract it, because as you would have found out through all the manifestation, wherever your attention goes, that's where energy flows. However, it can then turn and pivot so that you are in a position where it becomes your focus, but it also becomes your dharma.
Dharma.
your purpose, your life purpose, your calling. It's almost like your soul purpose.
Right.
You know, Wayne Dyer talked about the Dharma, you know, so if anybody wants to find out more about your Dharma, go and check out Wayne Dyer. He is absolutely amazing. And he comes from, you know, very wobbly beginnings. I mean, he
Wobbly,
was...
it's a technical term.
Wobbly,
Yeah.
very technical. You know, he was adopted, but he was fostered for many years. So you can only imagine what that would have
Tough
meant.
start to the
It
life,
really
isn't
is.
it? Your whole
And
world's under, like, not shaky around, but, you know, we're all about foundation, and your first foundation is your family, isn't it?
Well, it is family of origin. And, you know, in my experience, abandonment is one of the biggest issues.
No doubt about it.
You know,
thoroughly
because it's like that loneliness. It's almost where they feel like they've been completely deserted. So you can only imagine. So that turned out being his Dharma. So he went on to being this incredible author, this incredible spokesperson on the Dharma, on the way of life, on how to turn things around. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Okay.
And that then brings me to the default switch system. And the default switch system is like your core.
Right.
So you pull away all the rubbish, you pull away all the layers and the onion layers and everything else. And what have you got? You've got your core. But what if your core is built on shaky ground?
It's a great point. It really, really is. Because,
Yeah.
And like, whenever we're dealing with people in life, so often you talk about where they've come from, and very quickly it lays out very clearly where that shaky ground comes from. You know, where you know, everybody probably, Aaron just bangs on about it, but as far as, you know, look, the home is so important. Your base is absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, that there are very big realities to splitting up that family, to all of the consequences to that.
Yes.
So you see so many people who are so troubled. Generally, it's coming from their childhood. Generally, it's based in that lack of foundation.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Queen of Manifestation on social media and YouTube, which is Gabby. You may have heard of her. I can't think of her last name right now. She talks about...
Is that the one?
She was on the Diary of a CEO the other day, and she's amazing. But she talks about the exile system and how and I guess the exile system is also like the fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
And, you know,
freeze,
how we, you know, a lot of our parts come out in crisis where it's the inner child that has never been healed.
No doubt about it.
You know?
No doubt.
So the inner child, and quite often you have the fight, and that's the fighter and really wanting to do something. And they call it, you know, the firefighter, wanting to go in and rescue. And, you know, there are some people that are like that. I think you're a bit... I would have thought you're a bit of the rescuer.
I'm a total rescuer. I may as well walk through life holding a ladder, okay? I even have just, and I won't go into it, but I have literally just had another rescuer experience myself. And I think, just please, I feel like someone needs to intervene, to walk in, slap me about the head a bit and stop me from doing this.
Well, maybe it is your Dharma.
Yeah.
And yet there is that really happy medium, though, of finding where the boundary is, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. And when you are a rescuer, you struggle with boundaries.
Yes.
Okay? You allow people to have boundaries. Well, no, you allow people to walk all over your boundaries. There lies the problem. Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of that has come from, you know, that background of, you know, obviously you've had more things thrown at you. I reckon we could make a movie on your life.
And
it would be riveting, right?
I hope so.
So, you know, when it comes to that, you know, it makes sense of why you are the rescuer.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, that is part of your programming, and it's a great part, but you'll also find that it's your weakness as well.
No
This
doubt.
is what happens, right?
Okay.
It becomes your strength,
Yep.
and it also becomes your weakness. So it's about how far to go, and I'm absolutely 100% guilty for this as well.
All right.
How far do you go without pushing the line and knowing when you've got to stop and you've got to look after yourself, and you've got to pour into your own cup and make sure that you are overflowing, because you can't give away what you haven't got.
It's unbelievably true. Yeah.
You know?
And we deplete ourselves down until there's very, very little. And, you know, by helping others, and I love helping others, so make no mistake, and I don't want to change that about myself, and I encourage other people to be that way. I think it's, okay, I just think it's a great way of, the word judging is terrible, but I mean, I judge society, okay, on the way it treats those who need their help, right? That's how I judge a society, and that's how I do judge a person.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to veer away from that, but at the same time, if you don't engage in self-care, if you don't actually make sure there's still something in the cup, then ultimately it all crushes down and falls down around you.
Yeah. But you would find, and I'm sure you would know this is true, that if you look back, you would be able to identify that there are moments of time in your life where you become that critic and probably become an authority, if you will, on that topic, because you've been on the other side of the shoe. The shoe's been on the other foot.
Yeah, and when you are in that, you are in that position. What do you want to do? You want to seek as much knowledge as you can about it. I mean, that's why I've got several friends who are psychologists, right? And I joke about, you know, the fact that we're friends because they're obviously trying to work me out, right? But honestly, every one of them has had really nasty adversity in some part of their life. So they became psychologists because they want to fix themselves.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
All of them.
Yes. There was a running joke in my household about that. Ian used to always say, if any of our kids come home and tell us that they're going to be a psychologist, that's when we've got worries on our hands. You can't believe it. His son came home one day and said, I've decided I'm going to study psychology.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Oh, my gosh.
Look,
he didn't continue.
No,
he didn't continue. But it was there.
It's an important role, and I don't mean to pull a Mickey out of a profession, but yeah, well, to me, again, it's a fact of you go and you seek the knowledge about the thing that you're lacking, right?
Yeah.
And if, or not lacking is probably the wrong word, but yeah, the thing that you need it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they go that way. So
it becomes your Dharma.
It absolutely does. Yeah,
You're getting the Dharma now?
I'm Dharma.
You're Dharma-ing?
Yeah.
You're not
when
Dharma'd
you said,
out yet?
okay, so here's how my mind works. When you said Dharma, I thought of Dharma and Greg. Remember the TV show many years ago?
Okay, no, that was definitely not it.
No, not it.
And you know, there is a difference too, because you know we develop this kind of resilience. And quite often, if our childhood parts have not been resolved, this is where it comes out later in life.
Okay.
So this is where I always say NLP was an absolute game changer for me, because it meant, I mean, you can't, you know, solve everything.
No.
But when you look at some of the biggest patterns and traumatic events, and usually it'll be around the same theme. So whether it is abandonment, isolation, you know, mistreated, made to feel like you put down, unloved, whatever it is, you'll find that there's that theme that runs through. And the way to actually stop it in its tracks is to identify it and not know that you don't have to talk about story like the rabbit ran away with the budgerigar down the road and had an affair with the rabbit. You know, it doesn't have to be.
You can't trust these rabbits, honestly. They breed like rabbits.
It doesn't have to be story. That's what I'm getting at, right? Okay. It doesn't have to be he said, she said, this is what he did, this is what she did. What it really needs to be is it's about, well, what does that feeling feel like?
Okay.
As a result of you going through that crisis in your life.
So the feelings of the event rather than the event itself?
Exactly, the energy of it. Okay. Because that's how the subconscious mind works, and that's how even the universe and manifestation works. It works through energy. So, you know, it's all about energy. So if that energy is coming from, you know, where there is abandonment issues, and it might be a lover left or a wife or a husband left, you'll find that there's traces of that. Different people, different circumstances, but the same kind of energy at play. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It really does.
So when you can really take hold of that and understand that all of this is, if it is an existential crisis, and it becomes your dharma, it becomes your purpose, and you resolve it. And I say that part, you know, once it's healed,
Yep.
you know, that's where you begin building new neural pathways.
Okay.
Because
And that's the whole damn plan of NLP,
that is,
right?
yeah. It's about, because if you've been, I often say, if you're going four-wheel driving, you know, let's talk, or let's just say let's go motor racing.
Why not?
Motor racing.
Best subject in the world.
But, you know, you're on a trail. Have you ever been through the bush?
Yes.
And had to go through and track and, you know, do all those kinds
Terri,
of
have
things?
you just met me?
Okay.
Come on. Come on.
Okay, so you've got two tracks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's just say you've got a well-driven track, and you want to win the race. It's a rally.
Yeah, okay.
So you look at that track and you go, okay, then there's the other track, but that one's got a lot of shrubs.
Sure.
That's got a lot of obstacles. That's got a lot of rocks. So you go, nah, I'm not going down that way. I mean, the fact is, if I want to win this rally, I'm going down this one. This is the easy track. Would you
Okay.
agree with that?
Yes.
In
yes.
some cases.
In some principles.
In
I mean,
some
part of me is
cases.
going, okay, that's the track
Challenge.
everybody else has taken.
Yeah.
If I go that way, it may actually be a shorter path, and I might come out in the lead.
Well,
that's kind of how my brain
why
works.
You are so emotionally intelligent naturally.
Right.
Because you have that thought pattern. However, the normal, and I'm not saying you're not normal, but
not
the
normal.
average, like the
Guaranteed.
majority of people will go the easy route.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
I don't think you're the kind of person, you don't strike me as the kind of person that always thinks of the easy route as the best route.
Oh, because it's not. I mean, it's as simple as that. The easy route is exactly that. I mean, it's the route that most people will take,
Yeah.
right? But you don't hit your goals if you take the easy path. Like,
True.
okay, you just said about motorsport and all of that. Okay, for me, I remember people said to me, and this is, work with me on this one a little bit. I mean, I remember someone said to me once, so like, you know, you spend so much money, you work so hard, all of that. You know, why don't you just go into the trophy shop and buy yourself a trophy? I said, what would that mean? Like, what would it mean? You know,
Yes.
because the trophies that I've
Yeah.
won, like if they're good ones, they mean something to me because they talk about the struggle and how hard it was to attain it, right?
Yes.
Whereas if you shortcut, then what is it? It's a cheap lump of wood and plastic. That's all
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
It's what's attached to that trophy, right? In that case, some of my greatest personal trophies don't have a lump of wood or a bit of gold and plastic on it, okay?
Yeah.
They are things that have happened to me, experiences I've had
Yes.
that I store away that nobody else knows
They've
about.
got meaning.
Yeah. And I think they don't have meaning rather, unless it's got an element of difficulty or danger about it.
Absolutely. So I'm sure Evel Knievel probably didn't take the easy route either, because
No.
that would have been a little bit boring, right?
Well, okay, if you actually watch the Evel Knievel story, he wasn't really that good.
Okay.
Really not that. No.
Let's go down a rabbit hole, shall we?
Okay. No,
So in what way wasn't he that good?
He failed a lot more than he succeeded. Okay, so
Oh, but that probably was his secret, Aaron.
maybe that's it. But
He
he did a
failed
lot.
forward.
Yeah, he did fail forward, right? It reminds me of a Labor politician. Anyway, but like he did all these jumps. He had tried to achieve things that at the time were not actually possible because of the technology and this and that. And he did. So, he failed a lot.
Yeah.
Very few actual things that any, achievements he had. I mean, they're amazing, right? And he made himself a legend. And, I played with the toys as a kid and we all had that experience, right?
Yeah.
My first motor racing helmet was actually Evel Knievel's helmet.
Is that right?
Yes, yeah, at the Stars and Stripes and River Laugh. So, where I'm going on this is that, okay, he is a legend in so many people's lives.
Yeah.
But if you really cut to the chase, we fell more in love with the mystery and the romance of the man who was attempting the unachievable than actually what he achieved.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And he had a big element of fearlessness.
Oh, huge.
That fearlessness, took him to making those decisions. But, here's the thing, a lot of people will not make those decisions. They will not take the harder route. They will not take a risk
Right.
or do something different, because the human mind likes to be comfortable and it likes to default back to whatever that pattern was, whatever that addiction. It's like, you know, I'm going to stay in this pattern because it's the one that I know the best. So going down that well-used path is easy, but when you when you're told, okay, this is what you've been doing for a big part of your life.
Yep.
You've been tripping over, you've been triggered, you've been even attracting the same things over and over again. But let's deal with it, shall we? Let's actually release and heal that part of your life. Okay. And by going through and dissolving, clearing, healing and releasing it, it means then you've got to begin to think about, well, what am I going to put into its place?
Because you have to replace it, don't you? Yeah.
You know, otherwise somebody else will. The universe will, and it'll just come up with whatever's.
But so many of us,
yeah.
okay, and okay, I appear to have an addiction to drama. Now, I don't want the drama, okay? I want a little bit of drama because I like a bit of yeah, look, I'd be bored out of my brain if I didn't have a little bit of drama, let's be frank. But at the same time, you know, I wouldn't mind reining it back a little bit. I'd like life to be a little bit easier, okay?
Yes.
Like, then that's...
And maybe you would find it a little bit boring, but there may be something more, you know, pertinent about the drama. Because I have to agree with that as well. So rescuers and a little bit of drama, you know, and that means that, you know, when the chips are down, you're going to be one of those people that goes into the fight mode rather than the flight freeze, you know, because a lot of people will get paralysed and not know what to do, so they'll stop.
See, I've never had that.
It's
never happened, not once that I can think of in my life where I've frozen, like, you know, if there's adversity, yeah, I'll get on the front foot about it. I mean, I'm not stupid. I'm not like, you know, okay. But as far as, you know, if something's on fire, I'm going to go and try and put the fire out.
Of course.
I don't try and leave the fire.
Yeah,
okay?
that's right.
And I don't freeze and go, oh, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
You go straight into the mode of trying to deal with it.
Yes.
And it has actually surprised me because in my own mind, I kind of thought everybody was like that. And now I know.
That's a true thing. That happens. You think what you are good at, what you believe and what you do, everybody else will be the same.
And then when you see people and they react very, very differently, you think, I just don't get it. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a whole value system talk on that.
Right.
And, you know, how we can get disappointed with people because they have their own belief system and they might have their own set of strengths. And then we're going, like, why can't you be like that? Well, what are you doing? But they've got other kind of elements that they're strong in that come from their default system.
And there is the beauty of the world, right? We are all different and life would be very, very dull if we're all the same.
Yes.
Yeah, but it is hard when you see that traits that for you are just defaults and other people don't have.
Yeah.
It makes, I don't know, you feel a little lost for it.
Yeah, and I believe that the reason it's a really good idea to, you know, heal your wounds and as many as you can from your childhood, from your past, is so that you can build a really strong default system so that when you go into a scenario where there is, like, you know, I'm in a scenario at the moment, for example, I don't have to talk about that story, but I can see how there are people in that scenario that are in fight, in flight and in freeze. And I'm in the fight.
Right.
I'm activating. And, you know, sometimes actions is what, you know, happens. But then there's a weakness about actions as well. We can burn ourselves out. We
100%.
we can we can say things too quickly. We can decide on things too quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, while it's good to make decisions,
make the right ones.
Sometimes we don't always make the best.
If you're impetuous and you kind of jump straight to it. I'm not going to delve into your personal life, but okay, I'm going to say this to you. Like you, I admire you. I really do. I've seen some of the adversity that comes your way, and the way you're reacting to it is just absolutely amazing. And I think amazing is probably the wrong word. It's okay. You know how before I said about that I don't understand when people don't act in that particular way.
Yeah.
Well, you are acting the way that I would anticipate, and that makes me feel. Oh, yeah, well, obviously, it makes me feel. I don't know, a one-manship with you. It does make me feel a friendship, a bond, and all of that.
Yes.
But it's an admiration thing because
Yes.
it is so good. And when people, and this is a failing in me, when people don't act in the way that I kind of anticipate, I do think, like, what's with you? Like, step up.
Yeah.
Step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, be a person of action.
Absolutely.
Action is so important.
Yeah.
Because if we're running around in life and we've just got these, airy-fairy ideas, when I say airy-fairy, there could be anything.
Yeah.
But if they're just ideas and you're not putting them into action,
Yeah.
then they're nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is where crisis comes into play, and you really have to have that rock solid core.
Okay.
Because people do, you were one of them, they'll say, are you okay?
Yeah.
And the fact is, of course I'm okay. I'm alive, aren't I? I mean,
It's a good
is this going to actually kill me? Absolutely not.
No, it's not. No way in the world, right?
Yeah.
But okay, here's the question: the are you okay, and not the throwaway are you okay. When people are genuinely interested in you're okay or okay, that is sort of my way of saying, hey, is your cup, still got some juice in it, right? Okay.
Yes.
Are you emptying that so much to do these other things, to look after the people you need to in your life?
Yes.
That's my way of saying, just make sure you top up.
Absolutely, but that's a very brave question. And you can tell when someone's asking it and they're for real.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference between, are you okay? Like the English way they say, are you okay?
Yeah,
That's what
right,
they
love.
say.
Yeah, hello.
But then the way, I'm talking about when you hear a person say, are you okay? Are you okay?
Yep.
And
Comes from a
that
different place.
tone of voice. It's a very brave question from the other person.
Okay.
Because a lot of other people, they don't even want to hear it. Some people, it will be too hard. I can't deal with this. And
That's
this
right.
again is fight, flight, freeze. And sometimes it happens with our loved ones. Our
no
loved
doubt
ones
about
might be the ones that tend to shy away, or
Yeah.
they tend to run. And, this is where I wanted to bring in, where does stoicism, come into play? So there's required to be, the Queen was stoic, wasn't she?
Oh, yes.
I had a lot of respect for the monarchy when she
We
was
are not
around.
amused. Yeah.
We are not amused,
yeah.
no. And, she just put her handbag in a slightly different way, and then her guards would come along and move the person who was ever sitting next to her.
Is that
Yes.
right? I didn't know that.
They had signs and symbols for everything.
Of course they do. Or did. Yeah.
So they were very strategic, and she was very stoic, and she didn't let anything get to her. And look at the crisis she went
Oh,
through.
just one more
With Diana,
Yep.
and what's happened with her son.
Which one?
The
They're all
which
nightmares.
one? Not Charles.
Charles is a
as
nightmare.
well.
No,
but
Charles
he's
is
a
a
nightmare. But
nightmare.
Andrew,
Oh, yeah.
look at
Horrible human
and
being.
even now the grandchildren.
Yep.
Obviously she's I have so much respect for the Queen, but she was a very stoic lady,
It was.
and I love that
okay.
about her.
What I want to say on this is, I've been watching all sorts of, all sorts of things, and I see Stoicism is making a big comeback, which is, I think, is a very, very good thing. But I have noticed there's, in the masculine side, they're kind of a little bit missing the point. Like a lot of what's being put out there, and a lot of what's being promoted is, it's a stoicism that was back in the 30s of last time round, so 95 years ago, right? Which has got a lot of value to it, no question about it. But we've also progressed, so like it is okay for men to have feelings. It's okay to show feelings, and there is a movement at the moment to actually try and squash that. And I get it, and I understand why, because the movement for making men soft and feminising women has gone, feminising men rather, has gone so far. It's gone too far.
Yeah.
But can't we just get some balance here?
Yeah,
Why do we have?
that's operative.
Yeah.
Have you been studying this?
A little bit.
It's the masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
The balance between that.
Men and women are different, and I don't care. We are different,
We are
and it's
different.
wonderful. It is because I'll tell you right now, how dull would life be? How dull would it be if you were seeking out the same personal traits in a partner that you have in yourself? That's just, to me, that's a little bit of narcissism if you're looking for someone just like you.
Look,
right?
absolutely. You know, if you're a man, be a man. If you're a woman, be a woman.
Be a woman, right?
And
It's not illegal to say.
The masculine and feminine parts, from that spiritual side. And I mean like that backbone, having that really strong backbone. The stoicism versus apathy. Do you know what the opposite to love is?
Well, everyone thinks hate, but it can't be because
It's not.
There's passion to hate.
It's apathy.
Yeah, just not caring.
Yeah, so don't get confused on that one,
I think it's a great
because
point.
there are some people that might consider themselves in a situation that they're running away from as being stoic, when in fact they could be erring on apathetic. And apathetic is also a way of dealing with things. It's, we've all got our negative and positive traits.
Sure.
Okay? It's just like having the feminine and the masculine. And we do need both, because that's the function of the brain, the left and the right side brain, our creative side and our logical side. And it's good to be in this kind of a balance.
I agree.
But the stoicism is the default switch of where we can come back and say, okay, I've been through this crisis.
Yep.
I'm dealing with all my inner parts. But there's got to be that place of knowing that there is a higher purpose for everything. And that higher purpose is absolutely pertinent. It's so important. In fact, Wayne Dyer would say, he has passed on actually now, but he would say that your life purpose is the most important thing. So for humans to really feel that fulfillment in their life, when you know why you're alive, when you know why you're born, and when you're living in accordance to that, that is when you are living in your most fulfilled life.
100,000% agree. And I can say this from a personal standpoint is I've been talking to people, that's what I do. I talk and talk and talk and talk. But I was speaking to someone over just the last couple of days, and we're talking about different periods of your life and success, whatever, yada, yada. And I was talking about a period of my life where I was the poster boy of success. Everything I was doing was just touching.
Is that right?
I touched
the poster
it.
boy.
Oh, yeah. Gold, gold, gold everywhere I went, right?
Yep.
And had the fancy this and the fancy that and the whole fancy package.
Yes.
Right, okay? And, Barbie didn't have the dream house. I'll tell you what, Aaron did. No, in the car and the whole goes. But when I'm going, okay, guess what? Guess what?
Yeah.
I was not fulfilled in any way, shape or form.
Absolutely.
And, what I am doing now in my life is so much more fulfilling. Right now, it doesn't come with the tinsel and the attraction of the shiny things that I had in the past of that period. And I now realise I wasn't touching gold. I was literally just putting tinsel on a life that was a bit empty. It was kind of like putting tinsel on a dead Christmas tree.
Yeah.
It looks shiny from the outside.
Yeah.
It looks impressive, all of that.
Yes.
But I'm actually now, I think I've got more value in my personal value than I had back then.
Yeah. So, if there was this great big Godzilla that kind of came down and you were...
I've been called worse. Okay. Come on,
and they said, Aaron, you have got to get over it, right? Everything that's happened to you, the fire, the family, the kids, everything is for the higher purpose of what you've called to be in this world.
100% agree. It's just, as I say, it's such an important thing. And if life was always easy, you wouldn't find that, right? And I say this now, at this stage of my life, well, guess what? In 10 years, maybe it's different. Okay, maybe I found another purpose or whatever. I've transitioned to another part of my life.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think that we worship false gods. We really do.
Yes.
Whether they be a sports car, or, the brand behind me, or that the house or the boat or the I don't know, the partner who is very much there for decoration rather than substance. All of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get
that's
past all of
such a good point, because that leads me to saying that's the default system. That's what you call coming back, getting rid of all those false gods.
Yep.
Because they may be here today, gone tomorrow, and that leaves you on wobbly ground, where when you come back to that belief that is between you, and I will respect everybody's religion, but I believe in God.
Yep.
So it comes back between you and God. that's when you can, rest on that and know that everything has a divine purpose.
That's right. Look, as far as on the religious thing, anybody who has a religious belief, right? We've all got a God. Okay, we call our gods different things,
Yeah.
right? So good on you for whoever floats your boat. Float
Yeah.
away, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. But have something in your life that means something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wayne Dyer says God is within.
Okay.
So especially if we call that to be the case, so that you can build a really rock solid foundation. Do we have some time for some questions?
I just turned my mic off so I could be sneaky and have a drink. But yes, of course, we're going to jump into these questions. Very
Okay,
important.
let's go. You can take a drink, take a swig. This is from Sarah. I'm going to read the questions today.
Thank you.
Sarah from Brisbane, Queensland. I went through a really tough breakup last year and it shattered my confidence. I want to move forward and find strength, but I don't know how to stop feeling stuck. How can I turn this pain into a source of power, as you say, and come back into self-love and even look at meeting someone else? So obviously, I'm sure everyone's been through this.
Oh, we have all been through this, yeah. And that self-doubt that sneaks into your life, like after a relationship,
Yeah. Yes.
Definitely. There's so much to this. Like, I used to think that relationships had to last and last and last and last, right? I've been, again, very lucky to surround myself with people who have taught me very good lessons in life. And now I look at relationships and think, like, if it's ended, okay, or if it needs to end, then it's, it's run its course. It's had its time.
Yeah.
It doesn't need, it's not, we don't live in a world anymore. It's very different where you marry someone, you stay with them till the day you die. Now, that's very nice. And if you can do that and it works for you, fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, if it doesn't, be with the person, love that person, give all of yourself to that person, and gain every, every skill, every lesson that you can from that relationship. And when it's past, move on, and... I used to jokingly just say when a relationship ends, this was my advice. Next! Right?
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
But easier said than done, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because I'm sure everybody has had their heart broken
Oh,
before.
man, and it hurts.
Yes,
it hurts.
yes.
It really does.
And, you do see people who do obsess. And, look, it's fair enough. I'm just trying to see if you were married to this person, Sarah.
Sorry, the way you said that, you're going to check if I was married to this person. No, trust me.
You're not married to
I've
Sarah?
had a girlfriend, Sarah.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Sarah,
we
sorry.
better just check in on that.
Yeah, we'll check on that one.
So, okay. So, as far as heartbreak, because, this is not my niche. This is not my dharma. And I'm going to say that. And I know we've got people on radio here that do very well in that arena.
Oh, no doubt.
And, as a person who has dealt with a lot of people with this kind of pain, it's really about coming into acceptance. And if they have gone away from you, and it's like, if you love something, set it free.
Yep.
If it comes back, the old saying, right?
Oh, look,
and if it doesn't, my husband says, shoot it down and kill it. But that's a joke, okay? But, if it does, then it's yours, right?
Yes.
But the fact is that when you do set something free, it's amazing how that gives more scope to allow that natural manifestation of energy to help that person to do their own thing. Because if you're holding on to them tight and you're obsessing over them, they're almost playing on that. And even if you don't see them, if they're in another side of the world, they can feel that energetic lock. Right? And it's an interesting concept. I've had this experience before.
Okay.
I was very, very young. But, I've said it on the show even, where I suddenly let it go. And it's interesting that in that moment, I'm not saying this is going to happen for you, Sarah, but I believe if it's meant to be, it will. When I let it go, it did actually come back to me. And it's a really interesting concept, but it's also that acceptance piece. And, you know, a broken heart, it's very difficult to kind of tackle the broken heart, but I do remember from an NLP point of view, setting out 2 timelines.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you can go forward into your future, because you are doing it deliberately, not because you're living in your future, because you don't want to live in your future. You want to live in the now. You want to enjoy
straight.
the present.
Of course
You want
do.
to feel your feet. You want to feel the hairs on your head. Just joking. I am joking. You want to really be with yourself in that moment because people know it. Why not enjoy this very moment?
Why not enjoy it?
But there comes a point where you can say, you know, the manifestation process, which I know that, you know, Faye would have really gone through, and that is, you know, visualizing what you want. But in this concept, it's about visualizing your future without that person. And there's something very interesting that happens when you, like if you've got nerves, for example, and you're about to go into a meeting or a situation where you're really like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? Whether it's exciting and you're doing a stage presentation or whether it's a court case and you're really nutsos nervous about it, by quantum jumping onto the other side where you've finished the meeting.
Okay.
Where you are in that space of, and in this case for Sarah, I would say quantum jump 12 months ahead. But obviously when you do jump to the end, it tricks your subconscious mind into going into that space, feeling it, because it's an energetic process.
Good point.
So
Really?
it's a really energetic process, and deciding how you want to feel. You know, I'm empowered. I won that. You know, I totally just smashed that one out, and then playing that up. And because you've kind of tricked your subconscious into going into that future, you can make it up. And it's a bit like the track that's difficult to go down. You have to recreate that track. So I'm going to recreate a new track. So that new neuro pathway is a new kind of default system that needs to be practiced and needs to really go over and over and over again.
Secret of NLP.
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. And that's a metaphoric kind of principle. But if you're, you know, looking at really going over to the other side and, okay, see yourself as if you are with that person. Allow yourself to be in that concept of what you think that would be like. And go in there, you know, perhaps 6 or 12 months from now, just to feel into it. And then it's almost putting yourself through the fire, then coming back, and then looking at the other one where it's 12 months without that person. How many people do you know, Aaron, that have had scenarios where they're really devastated and it might have been a person that walked out on them, it could have been a lost partner.
Sure.
But down the track they go, oh, that's why.
That's why. Oh,
That's why.
so unbelievably clear. It's happened to me without any doubt in the world. I think that's a really, really important thing. Time is important, and I would sort of say this to Sarah, and I'll just take a quick moment to say hi to Damo. Great to see you on board, mate. Fantastic. We're going to some different places today, so I noticed a lot of people watching on Twitch, which is nice to see. But I want to just mention to Sarah that time. For myself, I did this. I came out of a relationship and then I went into other ones. I'm not going to carry on. And then I realised, what am I doing? Like, you know, I'm bouncing, right? Okay. Like, why do I need to be in a relationship so much? So I actually ended it and I said, right, I'm on my own. I gave myself 12 months and I said, I'm not going to go into another relationship for 12 months. Got a little exercise, but I didn't go into a relationship.
Okay,
right?
I get it.
Okay.
Yep.
But anyway, that was a very distinct choice, and I lived my life like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I can't tell you it was one of the best things I've ever done for myself, full stop. And Sarah, by you spending the time with you and figuring out who you are,
Yes.
whoa, you realise that that person. Now, I'm not saying that person was a bad person. I don't know because I don't know the situation. But it separates it. It kind of puts a timeline on it.
Yeah.
Boom, it's your past. You're living
Yes.
right now in your present, and your future is now under your control, not theirs.
Yeah.
Because before they still had a leash on you.
Well, this is true.
You know,
So I love that, and that's a really great, from the man's perspective as well. And if I can share that from the lady's perspective,
absolutely.
So one of my mentors, and she is absolutely incredible at this stuff with the neuro-linguistic programming and all this, and she had a breakup too, Sarah. And what she actually did was she took herself off to Bali. And she made a choice that she would actually marry herself. Now, she talked about this in the concept of really coming in to finding herself.
Right.
And she lived over there. She actually lived over there. And when she came back, she went into a kind of one of those workshops, but it was like a retreat where she stayed over.
Was that in Bali?
No, it was actually more in where she is in the USA. So she came back and she met the love of her life.
Right.
And that's a huge story. But when she met him, she said, "Oh, no, I'm not ready." But see, because she'd done the work on herself, and she'd already gone to Bali, and because the universe and energy doesn't know time anyway.
Great point.
So she had done everything she needed to do for herself. And as it turns out, she met the absolute love of her life. Those two people are the absolute fire and soul in the neuro-linguistic programming industry. They run retreats, they do all that kind of stuff. So I think from what Aaron just said, that was a great inspiration, because that is probably the greatest thing. And just to finish that too, timelining, so you've gone off to the one where you're with him, and then you're going off to the other one where you're marrying yourself, and you become that person, and you build yourself up, and you create yourself, and then you come back to yourself, and you ask yourself this question: am I going to be that highest version of myself with that person?
That is a great question, because how many of the partners do we choose in life who actually hold us back? Right? Yeah.
That's it.
And as for marrying yourself, not something I've ever thought of before, but you're not going to fight over colours. You're not going to fight over cars. I mean, how good is it? What a great plan.
Well, this is true. Yeah, exactly.
I reckon we've got room for a little bit of time for one more question.
Okay, James, Portland. Where's that? Portland. Anyway,
Portland.
I lost my business during the pandemic. Oh, you and many other people. And it's been hard to rebuild. Sometimes I feel like giving up because it feels like I'll never reach the same success again. How can I use this setback as a stepping stone to something even better? So obviously he doesn't say here what kind of business he had, but no doubt it was a business where he probably had to close down. And, what does a person do when, like, there's people in the Bible that lose everything?
Of course there are.
If you look at the book of Job.
People through every era of time who've lost absolutely everything.
Yeah. And sometimes you've got to burn everything to the ground to start again.
Yeah, and it's cleansing. Like, it's horrible, but it's cleansing. And like, as far as, all right, I mean, the way I would sort of, the thing I would put through to James is this: you now know the pitfalls, mate. Like, okay, you actually, when you start again, you're not going to start rather from zero, right? You're now starting way up the board of the old game of snakes and ladders here.
Yeah.
Okay, the lessons you've learnt from. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say we're going to have another, a pandemic or anything like that. And the old Wu flu's not going to come back.
I think people are too smart now.
I think we've opened a lot of
people
eyes.
People have woken up.
Yeah. But, so I don't think we have that experience to that level again. But the other lessons that you would have learned, I would say, use that adversity as fuel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Yeah, the government did destroy things for you. And maybe this time structure things different, learn those lessons. And when you're structuring your business, think about contingency plans and make it, recession proof, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
You know, or I mean, and that's effectively what the Wu flu was. It was a big fake depression, recession,
Yes.
implemented on the world, right?
Yeah.
It was all about redistributing wealth. Well, guess what? Learn the value of that. Learn the lessons from that. You're not starting from zero, mate. As I say, you're halfway up the board, and that I would just say, don't lose hope by any stretch of imagination. Business is really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not for.
Yes.
If you want an easy life, don't get a business.
Yeah, that's right. And
yeah.
I mean, if you want, when you think of people that lost their, so much through that time of the pandemic, go to Bali.
Go to Bali.
Because honestly, that was sad. That was really so sad because they're the most beautiful people.
They are.
And you go over there and everything is about tourism. And for them to have gone into a ghost town for that amount of time. But do you know it's brought everyone back to community, to love, to connection. And I've seen a lot of cleansing that has happened over there. I mean, I didn't like seeing it happen to those people.
No.
But from that point of view, it was an element where even, I know sounds immaterial, but the dogs over in Bali used to be really stray and yucky, and you didn't want to, sorry about the terminology, but you didn't want to be near them because they looked
mangy,
disowned and mangy.
Yeah, they did.
Absolutely. You didn't
look
want to touch them.
nose.
They are all loved animals now.
Okay.
So you go
Wow, 'cause I
over
haven't been
there.
back since.
Yeah, you go over there because there's a lot of people who have built businesses over there and they're supporting those animals. So those animals are looked after and cared for. But they obviously found that time. So I believe that we've always got to find the deeper meaning out of everything and look at, well, what, even though you may have, lost a big part of that business, what has happened to you? Where have you connected? What communities have you found?
What have you learned?
Yeah, what have you learned?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
bang on. And, has your mission actually evolved as a result?
I like that. I like that a lot. And James, my advice is, mate, bite off more than you can chew and chew like hell, right? Just go hard. I absolutely. Just, you learn more and more about yourself. You've learned these lessons. You know the mistakes not to make. You know the preparations to. You'll never get 100% right, but you know the preparations to plan and move forward. So I'll actually take it this way. Your business didn't fail. Okay, it's now going to move into another transition with all of that now bank of knowledge, if you like.
Yeah.
A comment's come up from Damo. He says he loves this topic. How do you know who to trust after trust is broken? What a question,
What a
mate.
question. That is
you could have asked me 5
amazing.
minutes into the show, Damo. That's
I
an
reckon
absolute doozy of a question.
That is. And, what it comes down to is that how many people, I'm going to say this from the negative point of view first, because it's always good to hit it up, with the reality.
Sure.
But we do lose a lot of trust as a result of losing trust, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense.
So we've got to be very careful about the fact that sometimes we may miss opportunities because something might alert us in the back of our mind about a trust that was once lost. So the question being, how do you rebuild that trust? It's really a case of, well, this is a different day, this is a different time. And, the way that I look at it, how many people could have I felt destroyed my trust, especially in business, going along the tracks, people taking advantage of you, people doing the wrong thing when you were trying to do the right thing.
Common.
And then you kind of get that fear that someone else is going to do it as well, and that you think that history is going to repeat. And look, the only reason history quite often does repeat is because we're repeating it in our brain.
Sure.
So it's really important that we do really look at it, well, where is this person coming from? And look at it from the angle of, I have gained so much wisdom. It's about wisdom and what you've learnt through the things that where people have broken your trust. So if people have broken your trust,
Yep.
there's a reason that it's happened. There are obviously elements and topics around that. So, you know, where were you in that scheme of things? That's a really good way to look at it.
Yep.
And what can you do different
Well,
going
it goes
forward?
back to what we were saying to James a moment ago, okay? This is a learning experience,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, learn something about yourself and the way that you offer your trust. I do this to myself constantly because, you know, I throw trust out to everybody and you know, you're absolutely right, mate, 1,000,000%. Like, how do you trust again when it's been broken? Well,
Because some people don't even go into relationships because of fear of trust
yeah,
broken.
yeah, no, I don't blame them. Completely don't blame them, right? That's self-preservation. But
Yeah.
wouldn't it be nicer if you actually just opened yourself up and went, okay, I'm going to be critical of myself here. Okay, the two little devils on your shoulders. One's supposed to be an angel, but who knows? I've got two devils. But one little devil sort of, you know, is pointing out all the negative and pushing you down that route not to trust again. Well, okay, be honest with yourself. What did you bring to the whole picture that was part of that, why that trust got broken?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you did something wrong as far as like, you know, that I'm not certainly shaming you for someone else who's done the dirty on you. What I'm saying is that what could you have done differently that would have brought a better outcome, that you would have noticed this trust earlier? What were the signs? Look for the red flags, yada, yada,
Yeah.
whether it's a relationship or a business relationship or a friendship. It just maybe it teaches you each time to have a bit of a look at you and how you contributed to
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
Take responsibility.
Yep.
So even if that person did break your trust, taking back the power and taking responsibility for knowing what part you played. So I can say that in the moments of time when my trust was broken,
Yep.
I probably gave too much trust.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that?
Oh, yeah.
Where you throw out so much trust that it's kind of like, you know, the story of the devil and God.
Yep.
And where, you know, Lucifer was given all this power, and then what happened? He took advantage of it. Well, that's how the story goes, right?
That's where it goes.
So, you know, I know that if you give people too much, you've got to know how much, you know, and use the rest as wisdom. So don't lose the trust, or should I say, have the trust, but also have the wisdom, like you just said.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Okay, there you go. Secret to relationships right there. It is the end of the show. Well and truly, been fantastic to be with you for the last hour. Thank you, Terry.
And likewise,
Yeah, and
Aaron.
I would encourage everybody to get out there, do the whole YouTube thing and like and share and subscribe and all of that. Because we've gone to some different paths today, and it's always interesting to sort of see what happens with that. So, yeah, if you could share it with as many friends and family as possible, we would very much appreciate
Sharing
that.
is caring.
That's right. We're all in this together. That is the end of course, the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.
Show where we have explored through this various topic along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.